What is up, guys? I hope you guys are doing amazing. We are back with another trade breakdown. Today we ended up taking 3 trades, 1 break even and 2 losses, for a total loss on the trading day of 2R. Well, regarding the trades. Today was a lot more of a brutal day. It was actually a terrible day. I'm joking, no it wasn't. However, there was a huge takeaway we made from today that we would have not been able to take away or even learn if today didn't happen. So we're going to go in, like always, break down my thought process before, break down my thought process during the trade, and specifically what led to me taking this third trade right here. Starting off by showing executions as per usual. I did end up giving a little mini recap. You could pause and read right here within the Discord. But we'll come back to this later. But here were the executions. Did look a little bit messy. Ended up scaling into this larger position. Why? I will go into that in just a minute. And obviously this was the chart work during the time. And you can see how the quarters were aligning. Now, going to what I was expecting to potentially see from price action going into market open. What I was trying to see from price action was a potential retracement toward true week open. I wanted to see the open high low closing near true week open. I thought this was all we were going to get. Clearly not. Price action is continuing to displace lower to the downside. This is how price action looked going into market open. So what else was I trying to see? What I seen was a potential power of 3. We had the accumulation Q1, manipulation Q2, and Q3. I was looking to see potential distribution to the upside. That was why I was looking to target true week open. We also had a new week opening gap I wanted to see get filled. So my bias wasn't just out of random. I was very, very adamant on going long today. As you can see in the 3 executions, they were all long, mainly because of all the confluence I had personally seen with us potentially looking to go toward the upside. Back to the chart. So going into market open, what ended up happening? Well, immediate market open, we ended up taking out these lows that were on ES right here. So took out these lows, ES and YM, ended up forming an SMT, not a sequential SMT. This was just simply a normal SMT between Q1 and Q3. Remember, sequential SMT is an SMT between two quarters. So, or 2 back-to-back quarters. I apologize. So this was just a regular SMT. Did it hold less power? Just a little bit, yes. Well, yes, rather than a sequential SMT. However, that does not mean I roll out SMT. I still utilize SMT for executions like this. If sequential SMT was present, even better. Well, if sequential SMT was present, we would have held this and hit my take profit on my first trade, and this would have been a trade recap titled 4R quarterly theory, blah blah blah, true week opening gap, something like that. Now it's titled whatever I decided to title it. Anyways, so what ended up happening? Price action formed a 1-minute rejection block. It was a 1-minute rejection block, but it was also a 30-second rejection block. Price on the 30-second time frame looked just like this. Ended up setting our limit, got tagged in for almost 0 drawdown, and price displaced beautifully toward the upside. I was very, very confident in this trade. It was a clear as day long in order to catch this higher time frame power of 3 toward true week opening gap. It was as clear as day. Below midnight, below 7:30, like, it was beautiful. Like, this trade was A++. And even though, yes, I did get hit with break even on it, it was still amazing. I would take this trade again and again and again and again. Price actions ended up displacing to the upside, formed an opposing SMT. Remember, the reason why we ended up invalidating this SMT was because it was not a sequential SMT. So formed an opposing SMT, normal SMT, and ended up displacing back to the downside. Now, once we ended up displacing back to the downside, taking out my break even, we were within this 5-minute rejection block. And I was like, hey, I'm still adamant on longs. Let me look to potentially long within this 5-minute rejection block we formed at the CE of it for a slightly increased risk reward. And guess what? That's what I did. Even though, yes, I'd gotten stopped out on the trade prior, but I was like, hey, if price provides another good opportunity to go long here, I want to go long here. I loved how the setup looked, and I'm not going to change my thought process on it just because it lost and we're looking at it in hindsight. You know, if the trade would have won, I would have been like, dude, guys, this was a great A+ trade, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? I lost on the trade execution, and guess what? It was still a great A+ trade. I'm proud of the 2 initial trades I took. Now, was the second trade necessary? No. If I wanted, I could have simply had one trade idea, risk still open, but I wanted to properly manage my risk. I was already up around almost 4R, so, I think it's viable to manage my risk. After that, ended up getting stopped out on that trade position. Was nothing wrong with that. I was like, hey, if we are looking to long, what do I want to see happen? I want to see us begin to, where is it? I'm going to go back so I could show you the quarters. I want to look for a long within, I want to see higher time from Q3, distribution phase aligned with 90-minute cycle Q3. So how does that look? We have this higher Q3, by the way, is this green right here. So this was the distribution phase, right? Very simple. I was looking to narrow it down and see price aligned with time right here within this smaller Q3, where I wanted to see the distribution higher. Did we end up seeing that? Well, high key, yeah, we ended up seeing that. However, this led to me FOMOing into the trade. I'm going to be honest with you guys. With all of my trade executions, with whatever trade idea I take, I will always be 100% upfront and honest with you guys. I did have FOMO going into this trade. Why did I have FOMO though? Mainly because on the 30-second time frame, we had our entry at 2.2, or was it 2.8? Right here. This was our execution we were looking to take on the 30-second chart. However, what ended up happening, as you can tell, we didn't end up getting our retracement immediately. We didn't get filled. So I was like, hey, I do still think we're going to take out this objective. I was like, hey, this is a clear objective. I want to long to this. So what I decided to do, I was like, you know what? I don't want to miss this setup, and I'm fine if I can at least take the trade execution and have a lower RR, as long as I could take the trade execution toward my drawn liquidity. I was blindsided by my drawn liquidity. I take accountability for that. So what I ended up doing, I market ordered somewhere up here for around a 101, and price shot for a bit. I was like, hey, I still think we're going to displace higher. Ended up getting stopped out. This trade idea, since it was lower risk reward, significantly lower risk reward, what did I do? I went heavier risk in order to make up for that risk, that RR. Ended up getting stopped out, and guess what? Still take accountability for it. Should I have taken the trade? No, not the way I did. Should I have taken the trade? Yeah, but not the way I did. I should have held out and continued to wait for price action to give me that retracement. Why? Because right here, I realized 9 times out of 10, I do get my entries. Almost every single time I get my entries, I get my fills. And even in this situation, later you can see if I would have still had my limit open, I would have gotten filled. Yes, it would have been a loss, but I would have gotten filled. So that's something huge. But the main takeaway today, because I wrote it here, blah, 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 my whatever. But it was this. I'm literally just going to read what I wrote. One important thing today, however, which will change my trading moving forward, which I would have not found from taking that additional larger loss, the one I just mentioned, the one I FOMO'd into, is this. I realized I'd rather have my limit set and miss a move 9 times out of 10, I always get a retracement. However, in the cases where I don't, I would rather miss the move than execute upon a trade idea with increased risk and a lower risk to reward ratio based upon how I am, my psychology. That's just how I am. And I would have not realized that today, like fully understood that moving forward in order to set a framework for me to follow if today's trade didn't happen. Today's trade execution, today's losing day needed to happen. It was a necessity moving forward. I would rather have the situation happen now than me have, me in a couple months from now have, 30 copy traded accounts and have this happen on that, blowing up all the copy traded accounts. You know what I mean? As you guys know, when I figure something out, I always stick with it. My application to it is immediate. This was just something I wasn't fully aware of. I was trying to force myself to fit into a psychological framework that just doesn't work for me with this trade execution. And guess what? It ended up leading to, hey, that doesn't work. And that's fine. It's fine to fail. It's fine to figure out, hey, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. As long as you can take that failure, improvise. I said this to one of my friends. I said, review, refine, and reinforce. Right here. As long as you could do those three, review, refine, and reinforce, you are moving forward. The only reason why today I didn't backslide on all my overall progress was because I am making the active decision right now, which profitability is an active decision you take every single day. I am making the active decision right now to not be upset about the losing day, but to zoom out from a bird's eye point of view, to see my overall performance, to see not only my overall performance, but rely on my model to continue to rely on my model. There you go. It's as simple. I didn't need to complicate it more than that. To continue to rely on my model and to continue to follow my model. That's it. Rather than, falling into despair, saying, woe is me, I lost my trade today. I got a revenge trade. I gotta, do all these other things. So, remember, profitability is an active decision you choose to make every single day. Every single day. Am I profitable yet? No. But I'm very, very close, you best believe. So, yeah. There you go, and I wrote that right here. That creates a framework for when I'm trading and never feel that FOMO of just execute with lower risk to reward. I proceeded to say that is a gold mine I struck today from executing upon the trade idea the way I did. That is my green profit on the day, and truly, I'm so confident in my psychology and my trade model right now and everything leading up to this point because of the work I put in that, this does not faze me in these slides. So if anything, I'm excited. Also, I'm up 11R on the week. So it doesn't really faze me. But the main point is, because of how I decided to tailor my model toward how I see fit for me to execute, I don't need a spiral. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you were able to take something away from that last part. But yeah, hope you guys have an amazing trading day. Journal your trades, review your week. Do look to do those 3 R's: review, refine, and improve. Review, refine, and reinforce. I love you guys, and peace, and have a nice day.